I was standing in the funeral home parking lot when my brother asked me to sign the papers. It was the day of Mom's funeral, January, the kind of cold that makes your face ache. Snow had been falling since morning, covering the cars in a thick white blanket that no one had bothered to brush off yet. People were still inside, eating sandwiches, drinking coffee from paper cups, telling stories about Mom that made her sound like someone I didn't quite recognize. My brother Kevin had walked me outside, said he needed air, said he needed to talk. He pulled a folder from his car, blue, legal-sized. The papers inside were already marked with yellow tabs where I was supposed to sign. "I know the timing isn't great," he said, his breath making clouds in the cold air. "But the lawyer said we should get this moving. Estate stuff. You know how it is." I looked at the folder, then at him. "It's been 4 hours since we buried her, Kev." I know. But these things take time to process. Months, sometimes. The sooner we start, the sooner it's done." He opened the folder, showed me the first page, a form I didn't understand, legal language that blurred together in the dim parking lot light. "What is this?" "Just standard stuff. Acknowledging the will, agreeing to the division of assets, makes everything smoother." "I didn't sign it." "Not then." But I should have known, standing there in that frozen parking lot while our mother's friends ate grocery store cookies inside, that something was wrong. "My name is Daniel Pearson. I'm 48 years old. I live in London, Ontario, in a small duplex I've rented for the past 12 years. I work as a technical writer for a software company. Remote work, decent pay, quiet life." My mother's name was Dorothy Pearson. She was 76 when she died. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed in October, gone by January. 3 months from healthy to hospice. I have one brother, Kevin. He's 51, 3 years older than me. He lives in Mississauga in a house with his wife Brenda and their 2 teenage daughters. Kevin works in real estate development. Makes good money, always has. Growing up, Kevin was the achiever, star athlete, honor roll, scholarships. He went to Western for business, graduated with honors, landed a job with a development firm before he even finished his degree. I was the quiet one, decent grades but not exceptional. I like computers and writing, went to Fanshawe College for a technical communications diploma, took longer to find my footing. Mom loved us both, but she was proud of Kevin in a way that was visible. The way she'd tell her friends about his promotions, the way she'd mention his house, his kids, his success. She loved me too, I know she did, but it was quieter, less public. I didn't mind. I wasn't Kevin. I didn't need to be. After Dad died 8 years ago, Mom moved into a retirement apartment in St. Thomas. Not a nursing home, independent living, a nice place. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, common areas for socializing. She was happy there, had friends, played cards, went to exercise classes. Kevin visited maybe 3 times a year. Christmas, her birthday, maybe Mother's Day if it was convenient. I visited every 2 weeks, Saturdays usually. I'd drive down from London 40 minutes and we'd have lunch, walk around if the weather was nice, just spend time together. When she got sick in October, Kevin was busy. Big project at work. The girls had school. Brenda's mother was visiting. I took Mom to her appointments, sat with her during chemo, helped her fill out forms when her hands shook too much to write. When the doctor said there was nothing more they could do, when they mentioned hospice, I was the one who researched facilities, found a good one, helped her move in. Kevin visited twice during those final 3 months. Once in November for an hour, once in December, 2 days before Christmas, with Brenda and the girls. They stayed 30 minutes. I was there almost every day. After work, I'd drive to St. Thomas, sit with her, read to her when she was too tired to talk, hold her hand when the pain was bad. She died on a Monday morning in early January. I was there, Kevin wasn't. He arrived 2 hours later, red-eyed and apologetic. I was in a meeting. I didn't see your messages until it was too late. I didn't blame him. Not then. Death doesn't wait for convenient timing. The funeral was 4 days later. A small service. Mom hadn't wanted anything elaborate, just family and close friends. A simple casket, burial next to Dad at the cemetery outside town. It snowed the morning of the funeral. Heavy, wet snow that made driving dangerous. Kevin and Brenda almost didn't come. "The roads are terrible," he'd said on the phone. "Maybe we should postpone." "We're not postponing Mom's funeral because of snow." They came. Late, but they came. And after the service, after the burial, after we'd returned to the funeral home for coffee and sandwiches that no one really wanted, Kevin pulled me aside. That's when he showed me the folder. I didn't sign the papers that day. Kevin seemed annoyed but didn't push. "Okay, whenever you're ready, just let me know." We went back inside. I shook hands with people I barely knew, accepted condolences, listened to stories about Mom that made her sound like a saint. She wasn't a saint. She was just a woman who did her best, who loved her sons, who made mistakes like everyone else. But she was gone now, and people needed her to be perfect. Kevin left early. The roads were getting worse, he said. Needed to get back before it got dark. I stayed until the end, helped clean up, threw away paper plates and half-empty coffee cups, thanked the funeral director. Then I drove home through the snow, and I didn't think about the papers Kevin had wanted me to sign. Not until the next day. He called Tuesday morning. I was working from home, on a video call with a client, when my phone buzzed. I called him back during lunch. "Hey, Kiev, what's up? Just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Yesterday was rough." "Yeah, listen, about those papers. Did you get a chance to look them over?" "Not yet. No rush. But the lawyer said the sooner we file, the better. Estate stuff can drag on if we don't stay on top of it." "I'll look at them this week." "Great. Thanks, then." He called again Thursday. Same thing. Checking in, making sure I'd looked at the papers. Friday, he texted. "Any update on the forms?" I hadn't looked at them. I'd been busy. Work was demanding. And honestly, I didn't want to think about Mom's estate. Thinking about her estate meant accepting she was really gone. But Kevin's persistence was starting to bother me. Saturday morning, I finally opened the folder. The first document was straightforward. An acknowledgement that I'd received a copy of the will, that I understood its contents, that I agreed to the distribution of assets as outlined. I read the will. It was simple. Everything split evenly between Kevin and me. The retirement apartment had been rented, so there was no property. Just her savings, some investments, a life insurance policy, and personal belongings. Total value, approximately $240,000. Split evenly, that was $120,000 each. Fair, simple, what I expected. The second document was different. It was a waiver. Essentially, I would be waiving my right to any involvement in the estate administration. Kevin would handle everything, selling personal items, closing accounts, distributing funds. I'd receive my portion once everything was finalized, but I'd have no say in how things were managed. I read it 3 times. It wasn't unusual, I supposed. One person handling the administrative work while the other stayed hands-off. It made sense if you trusted the person managing things. But something about it felt wrong. Why was Kevin so insistent I sign immediately? I called him Saturday afternoon. "Hey, I'm looking at these papers." "Great. Any questions?" "Yeah, this waiver. Why do I need to sign this?" "Oh, that. It just makes things easier. The estate has to go through probate, and having one executor simplifies the process. Otherwise, we both have to sign off on every single transaction. It's a pain." "But Mom's will names both of us as executors." "Right, and we can both stay on as executors. But this way, I handle the day-to-day stuff, and you don't have to worry about it. Less stress for you. What if I want to be involved?" Pause. "Do you?" I mean, you're busy with work. I figured you'd appreciate not having to deal with banks and lawyers and all that. I'm just trying to understand why you need me to sign this right now. Another pause. Longer. There's no rush, Dan. Take your time. I just thought it would be easier for both of us. Okay. But seriously, the lawyer said we should try to get this filed within 2 weeks. Otherwise, things get complicated. I'll think about it. I hung up feeling uneasy. I didn't sign the waiver. Instead, I called Mom's lawyer. His name was Gerald Hutchins. He'd handled her will, her power of attorney when Dad died, all her legal affairs. Mr. Hutchins, this is Daniel Pearson, Dorothy's son. Daniel, yes. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your mother was a wonderful woman. Thank you. I have some questions about the estate. Of course. What can I help you with? My brother gave me some papers to sign. One of them is a waiver that would make him the sole acting executor. Is that necessary? Necessary? No. Your mother's will designates both you and Kevin as co-executors. You can certainly act jointly. The waiver is optional. It just streamlines things if one party doesn't want to be involved. What happens if I don't sign it? Then you both remain active co-executors. Both signatures required for major decisions. It's more work, but it ensures both parties have oversight. And if I do sign it? Then Kevin handles everything. You'd still receive your inheritance, but you'd have no say in how assets are managed or distributed during the probate process. I see. Is there a reason you're hesitant to sign? I didn't know how to answer that. I had no proof of anything wrong, just a feeling. I'm just trying to understand the process. That's smart. Take your time. There's no legal deadline for filing that waiver. Your brother may be eager to get started, but you're entitled to review everything carefully. I thanked him and hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Kevin's insistence, about the folder he'd brought to the funeral home parking lot, about the calls and texts. Why was he in such a hurry? Monday morning, Kevin called again. Hey Dan, just following up. Did you get a chance to talk to the lawyer? I did. Great. So you're good to sign? I'm still thinking about it. What's there to think about? It's just paperwork. Kevin, why do you need me to sign this so badly? I don't need you to sign it. I'm just trying to make things easier. For who? For both of us. Look, I know you're grieving. I am too. But we have to deal with this stuff. The longer we wait, the more complicated it gets. Mr. Hutchins said there's no deadline. Silence. You called Hutchins? I had questions. What kind of questions? About the waiver. About my rights as co-executor. Dan, what's going on? Why are you being difficult about this? I'm not being difficult. I'm being careful. Careful of what? You think I'm trying to screw you over? I didn't say that. You're implying it. I'm just asking questions. He sighed. Heavy. Frustrated. Fine. Don't sign it. We'll do it the hard way. But don't complain when you have to drive to St. Thomas every week to sign paperwork at the bank. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like I'd just crossed a line I didn't know existed. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Mr. Hutchins.
Daniel, I wanted to give you a heads up. Kevin has filed a petition with the probate court to be named sole executor.
My stomach dropped. He can do that? He can try. He's arguing that you've been unresponsive and unwilling to fulfill your duties as co-executor, and that it's in the estate's best interest to have a single executor. That's not true. I didn't think so. You'll need to file a response. You have 30 days. What happens if I don't? Then the court will likely grant his petition. You'll be removed as executor. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This doesn't make sense. Why would he do this? I can't speculate on his motives, Daniel, but I'd suggest you get your own lawyer, someone who can represent your interests. I thanked him and hung up. Then I called Kevin. What the hell, Kev? Dan, you filed a petition to remove me as executor? I didn't want to, but you left me no choice. You're not cooperating. You won't sign the papers. I'm trying to settle Mom's estate, and you're making it impossible. I asked for 2 weeks to think about it. It's been 3 weeks, and you still haven't signed anything. Because something feels wrong about this. What feels wrong is you treating me like a criminal when I'm just trying to do what Mom wanted. What Mom wanted was for both of us to handle this together. Then why won't you let me handle it? Because you're rushing everything, because you showed up at her funeral with papers to sign, because you're calling me every other day pressuring me. Silence. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. I'm not going to argue with you. The petition is filed. If you want to fight it, go ahead. But you're just wasting time and money. He hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Coe. She specialized in estate disputes. I met with her the following Monday at her office in downtown London. I explained everything. The funeral, the papers, Kevin's insistence, the petition. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen. Do you trust your brother? I used to. But not now? I don't know. Something feels off. Has he given you access to your mother's financial records? Bank statements? Investment accounts? Anything like that? No. He said he'd handle all that. As co-executor, you're entitled to see everything. In fact, you're legally required to have access to that information. Kevin said it would be easier if he just managed it. Patricia nodded slowly. It's easier for him, certainly, but that's not how estates work. Both executors have equal rights and equal responsibilities. If he's trying to exclude you from information, that's a red flag. What should I do? First, we file a response to his petition. We argue that you've been fully cooperative and that his attempt to remove you is premature and unwarranted. Second, we request full disclosure of all estate assets and transactions. If he's been managing things for the past month, we need to see what he's been doing. You think he's hiding something? I think his behavior is suspicious. Why the rush? Why the pressure? Why try to cut you out of the process entirely? She leaned forward. In my experience, when someone is in a hurry to control an estate, there's usually a reason. We filed the response. We also filed a motion requesting full financial disclosure. Kevin's lawyer, he'd hired one, which told me this was serious, responded with their own motion, accusing me of obstructing the estate process and acting in bad faith. It was ugly. Legal and procedural, but ugly. The court scheduled a hearing for late February. In the meantime, Patricia subpoenaed Mom's financial records directly from the banks and investment firms. What we found made me sick. Mom's primary bank account showed a withdrawal of $30,000 on December 10th, 3 weeks before she died. Her investment account showed a transfer of $50,000 on December 15th. Both transactions were authorized by someone with power of attorney. Kevin. Mom had given Kevin power of attorney when she got sick. She'd asked me if I wanted to be included, but I'd said no. Kevin's better with financial stuff, I'd said. Let him handle it. I'd trusted him. He'd transferred $80,000 out of Mom's accounts while she was dying. Patricia requested documentation for these transactions. Kevin's lawyer provided it. The $30,000 was listed as reimbursement for caregiving expenses and medical costs. The $50,000 was listed as a pre-inheritance distribution approved by the account holder. I read the documents twice, my hands shaking. Can he do this? I asked Patricia. Technically, if your mother approved these transactions while she was alive and of sound mind, yes, but we'd need proof of that approval. And given the timing 3 weeks before her death, while she was in hospice, I have serious doubts about her capacity to consent. He stole from her. We don't know that yet, but we're going to find out. The hearing was on February 28th, a cold, gray Tuesday. Snow had fallen the night before, turning the courthouse steps treacherous. Kevin was already there when I arrived, sitting with his lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in her 50s. He didn't look at me. The judge, a tired-looking man in his 60s named Justice Carver, reviewed the motions. Kevin's lawyer spoke first. She argued that I'd been uncooperative, that I'd refused to sign necessary documents, that I was delaying the estate process for no legitimate reason. Patricia responded. She presented the financial records, the withdrawals, the transfers, the suspicious timing. She requested an audit of all estate transactions since Mom's diagnosis. Kevin's lawyer objected. Said the transactions were legitimate, that Mom had approved them, that this was a baseless accusation. Justice Carver listened to both sides. Then he asked Kevin a question. Mr. Pearson, can you provide documentation showing that your mother approved these transactions? Kevin's lawyer started to answer, but the judge held up his hand. I asked Mr. Pearson.
Kevin cleared his throat. She approved them verbally. I have notes from conversations.
Notes you made yourself? Yes. No signed documents? No recorded conversations? No witnesses? She was dying, Your Honor. She wasn't able to sign things. But she was able to verbally authorize $80,000 in transfers? Kevin's face went red. Yes. Justice Carver made a note. Then he looked at both of us. Gentlemen, I'm going to be very clear. This estate is not large. $240,000. You're both spending money on lawyers to fight over money that should have been simple to divide. He paused. However, the transactions in question are concerning. I'm ordering a full forensic audit of all estate accounts and transactions from October 1st to present. I'm also denying the petition to remove Daniel Pearson as co-executor. Both of you will continue to serve jointly until this matter is resolved. He banged his gavel. Next case. The audit took 6 weeks. The forensic accountant found more than just the 2 transactions Patricia had discovered. Kevin had been withdrawing money since November. Small amounts at first. $500 here, $1,000 there, medical expenses he'd noted in his records. But there were no receipts, no documentation, nothing to show where that money had gone. In total, he'd taken $94,000 from Mom's accounts. When confronted, Kevin's lawyer argued that he'd been covering costs, that he'd paid for things out of pocket and reimbursed himself. Then show us the receipts, Patricia said. There were no receipts. Kevin had been taking money from our dying mother's accounts and pocketing it. The settlement came in April. Kevin agreed to return the $94,000 to the estate. He also agreed to step down as executor. In exchange, we wouldn't pursue criminal charges. I became the sole executor. I managed the estate properly, paid the bills, closed the accounts, divided everything evenly, exactly as Mom's will specified. Kevin received his half, $120,000, same as me. After he'd returned the money he'd stolen. We haven't spoken since the settlement. He didn't come to the final estate meeting. His lawyer handled everything. I heard, through a mutual friend, that he told people I'd been greedy, that I'd fought him over Mom's money, that I'd dragged him through court for no reason. Maybe some people believe him. I don't care. I'm sitting in my apartment now, writing this on a Saturday afternoon in November, almost a year since Mom died. I've been thinking a lot about that day in the funeral home parking lot, about Kevin pulling out that folder, about how quickly he'd moved. 4 hours after we buried our mother, he was asking me to sign away my rights. He'd been planning it, even then, maybe even before she died. And if I'd signed those papers, if I'd trusted him the way I'd always trusted him, I never would have known. He would have taken the money, managed the estate his way, and I would have received whatever he decided to give me, if anything at all. I think about the version of myself who stood in that parking lot, cold and grieving, wanting nothing more than to go home and forget that any of this had to be dealt with. That version of me would have signed, would have trusted, would have lost everything, not just the money but the truth about who my brother really was. But I didn't sign. One signature I refused to give, and it changed everything. I've learned something this past year. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when things are hard, who sits with you in hospital rooms, who holds your hand when you're scared. Kevin was my brother, but he wasn't family, not in the way that mattered. Mom knew that, I think, toward the end. One of the last conversations we had, she was lucid for a few minutes. We were sitting in a hospice room. January sun coming through the window, weak and pale. She squeezed my hand. "You're a good son, Danny." "Kevin's good too, Mom." She looked at me for a long moment. "Kevin's successful. You're good. There's a difference." I hadn't understood it then. I do now. If you're listening to this and you've ever been pressured to sign something, to trust someone, to just go along with what's easier, I hope you remember this. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect yourself, even from people you love. Especially from people you love. Because sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. And one signature, one moment of saying, "I need to think about this," can save you from losing more than just money. It can save you from losing yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there trust their instincts, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Take care of yourselves. And remember, being careful isn't the same as being paranoid. Sometimes it's just being smart.